Hi guys and welcome back. In the last episode we managed to prime the mirror and to be honest it's looking pretty good. But while it's still masked up, it's a great opportunity to actually spray the exterior with guide coat as I've still got to do the interior. So this is what I'll be using. It is just a generic can of black paint, but there are loads and loads of guide coats out there. There's even a powder type which is actually pretty good, but this is what I'm used to. This is what I'm going to use. So there you go, simple as that, just a very fine mist of black aerosol paint. One thing I will say though is with this type of paint, make sure you don't go for an oil-based one, just a generic automotive paint is fine. So the idea of having a guide coat like this is that when I'm blocking this primer down, any imperfections, any little pinholes, scratches, dents or marks will actually appear as black areas, and then I can actually address those as they turn up. So even using a guide coat, it does generate a lot of overspray. That's why I've kept the masking on, even though now I need to do the interior. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these sections off here, peel them back out the way. I need to have a look at the other side of these roof sections, because if you remember from previous videos a while back now, these areas here were totally crushed and the roof was rippled, and I did actually take off the strengthening panel on the inside to do the work. So that all needs to be cleaned up inside, tidied up, primed and then painted. So on the inside you can see here that these panels, these were the ones that we originally removed and then re-welded back into position once the repairs were done. They did need straightening out quite a bit, but they do have a couple of ripples and dents that need to be sorted out, so that needs to be addressed. But as well as that, there's tons of, I don't know what this is, it's really thick glue or sealant. I'm guessing somebody had stuffed that up there just to hold that raggy old headlining into position. So that also needs to be removed. As well as that, there's bits of sticky tape and things. I don't think I can remove too much of this glue without, you know, damaging the paint below. So I'll probably end up doing the paint all the way along this edge here, losing the paint down this pillar here, just blowing it in. It does have some covers that go over those A-pillars, so I'm not too worried about that. And then what we can do is, yet again, lose the paint just down here, and we'll just flick it out at the back. So that's the plan of action then. What we'll do is we'll just key up this area here. We'll do the body work on these panels, remove as much of this glue. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get that out yet. I'm probably going to have to use a blade, and key up the areas that I need to get painted or primed. So I managed to remove all that glue up here just using a blade and a picky tool just to pick out the big chunks. I mean, to be honest, it was quite tough stuff, but I'm kind of glad that it hasn't done any damage. It'll be fine. Just glad I got that glue removed. The other thing I did was I've guide coated these panels and just blocked them down just so I can see the low spots and high spots. But interestingly enough, there really isn't that much repair needed. You can see here, there's a low spot and yeah, little bit there as well. So what I'll do is I'll just put a skim of filler over this side, and also on the driver's side, pretty much the same story. I've got a little bit of a low spot here, but yeah, in all, not too bad. So it's starting to get really dark in the workshop, but I'm going to carry on working and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So last night I did manage to get those internal roof panels fillered and sanded back and even primed. Let's go see what they look like. Okay, so these are the panels that I managed to get done last night, and yeah, they're actually looking pretty good. So another thing I did when I was priming there, you can see there's a loose flap of paper. This is so I don't get a hard line in the primer. It's just got like a graduated area there. So these bits look pretty good and they don't really need any more work. What I'm going to do is I'll just put a light coat of guide coat either side, and I'll block that down when I prep the rest of the top of the roof there. So I've just spent quite a while removing the old scrim foam that was stuck to the roof there. The glue was so sticky that it wasn't something that I could get off with just a scraper. So what I ended up doing is actually using an old rag, soaking the scrim foam, then using the scraper to remove it. And then I went over the area again with the scraper just to remove the residue. I mean, this stuff was super awkward to remove. It was just getting stuck. It was getting stringy. It wasn't actually, you're almost smearing it into the panel. What I suggest is something that I didn't do is actually use tar and glue remover or sticky stuff remover. And what that should help is to dissolve the glue itself and make it easier to remove. So you might be thinking to yourself, why bother? I mean, there's a headlining that goes over there. Well, here's the thing, the headlining I've got is absolutely rubbish. I can't really reuse it. And it was also stuck to the roof itself. So if I do decide to have a similar headlining, I will end up having to stick it back on the roof. And unfortunately, it was covered in that scrim foam, so it probably wouldn't have stuck. So at the moment, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the headlining situation, but I wouldn't mind to get these areas painted today, and also we'll just splash a bit of overspray onto this roof area here, just so it's nice and clean for whatever I do decide to do, even if it is just to stick some soundproofing sheets up there, because yet again, if it's got that scrim foam, it just won't stick. So on the inside of the car, I'm pretty much prepped up. I've done the primer, and I've knocked the primer back a bit. I've even gone round the areas that I need painting with Scotch. I also found a cheeky little dent here, which I've just sorted out with a bit of body filler, and then I've just primed over it and then just knocked it back so it's smooth. So on these window frames, I decided just to fade the paint down around this area and pretty much flick it over around here, and then do some kind of blend here. The reason why is I really like this sticker, and I don't really want to get rid of it if I can. So if I can do a little fade out here and one over here, I get to keep this sticker. So at this point, I was pretty much ready to load the gun up with paint and just degrease the area and just go for it and paint these areas. But then I thought there's something else I could do at the same time. So this is the rear area of the car. You can see it's a little bit scuzzy in areas, so I do need to do a little bit of work here, a little bit of rust treatment and some resealing. But as well as that, the paint inside the tyre well has actually come off a long time ago, and I really wouldn't mind just getting this area painted at the same time. It seems a shame just to leave it like this. And another thing I'd like to do, and I do realise this is underneath the carpet, but I'm actually going to cut out the section of damaged soundproofing here and replace it with some new bits of soundproofing. And then when I do the paint in the rear, I'm just going to flick a bit of paint over the top to give it that OE look. So in typical fashion of this channel, I've just given myself a little bit more work, but I reckon if I get this done now, then I won't have to come back and address it. that's this area of soundproofing removed. And if you're wondering why it was all cracked and damaged and falling off, well, I did have a theory on this many months ago that this car was lifted up with a forklift truck and it actually damaged this floor. So I'd repaired this area of the floor, but I didn't do anything with the soundproofing, so I'm going to do that now. So if you watched the Beetle video, you'll know that I bought some soundproofing on the roll, but actually at the same time I did buy some little soundproofing sheets which I thought would become quite handy, and in this case very handy, because I'll be using this sheet on the repair underneath. So that's my little soundproofing repair complete. What I'll do is on these edges around here, probably just apply a tiny bit of sealant, and then we'll finish it off with just a dust of primer. So that's that area of soundproofing done, and what I've done is just run a little bit of sealant around the edges and then just a really light coat of spray primer. And also what I've been doing is just removing the crusty bits of paint and then just a light coat of primer. Also, I have been sealing the areas that are missing the sealant. There's another bit over there. I'm not going to go too mad with the detail inside the tyre well or the back here. I just want to make sure that there's no bare metal areas showing. So I have started just masking up the wiring loom there, and what I'm going to do is mask up the gear selector area and also the handbrake, as this area here I just want a light mist of paint on. And at the back here, all I'm going to do is lightly scotch up the area just to take the shine off it, thoroughly degrease it, and just mask up some other bits and pieces that I don't want paint on. So I've just spent a little bit more time just scrubbing these areas down, make sure they're nice and clean, plug in all the little holes up. But also what I found is it was actually easier to remove the handbrake assembly than to mask around it. I did mask around the actual gear shifter. At the back here, any areas that were bare metal, I've just put a little light coat of aerosol primer on. So I'm pretty much where I want to be regarding the prep work on this car. I mean, obviously you could keep on going and detailing it, but I'm going to be realistic here. I do realise that there's going to be a spare wheel, there's going to be a carpet, and there's going to be interior. So all that's left for me to do is just use my tack rag, just lightly go over everything just to make sure I've done the best I can, and let's get some colour on. So what I've just done is applied some paint over the primed areas only. I'm going to treat this as kind of like a first coat. So on the next coat, as well as going over the primed repairs that I've just gone over, I'll also be doing the roof and the areas at the back. So I'm pretty happy that I've got enough paint on, and I think it's looking okay. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply the clear coat. I'll be doing the clear coat across here, around the frames there. Not worried about the roof. I forgot to mention, I've still got some colour left over in the paint gun, so I'm actually going to use that to do the floor after I've addressed the lacquer bits. So that's all the paintwork done in the interior. The only thing now I can do is let it dry. So that was quite a lot of effort just doing the interior on the Mira, but I think it is actually worth it. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers!